Okay, so I think you met Brian before, right? As mentioned, he has 10 years experience in Canada, Vancouver, 10 years in US, and another 10 years in Taiwan. So he will be the most suitable person to share his experiences on education and culture shock. So yeah, let's welcome Brian and let him start. Okay.
Thank you very much. I'll start by giving a little bit more of an explanation of who I am. I was born in Canada, in Toronto, but when I was 8 years old, my family moved from Toronto to Vancouver, Canada. So in my heart, I would consider Vancouver, Canada to be my home. Oh, sorry. Is it? Oh. I can go without the microphone too. Okay, well, we'll keep going. My wife here, her English name is Faith. 中文名字是马夏君. I know she has a boy's name, but her grandpa gave her English name, Faith, and she was born in Taiwan, but when she was 3 years old, she moved to America. So she grew up in America. She looks Chinese, but when she thinks, her thoughts are more like an American, if that makes sense. For myself, I look like I could be American, but when I moved to America, I realized I look American in many ways, but I don't think like Americans. Okay, so I had to feel the adjustment of going to the culture in America. But everybody thought that I was like them, but I didn't feel like them in my heart. When I came to Taiwan, nobody thought that I would be like Taiwanese, but over time, I have started to learn and grow to love Taiwan and to feel at home here in Taiwan. These are our kids. This is Abby and Nathan. Abby is now, this is a couple years ago. She is now 16 and Nathan is 14. When we moved to Taiwan, they were 3 years old and 5 years old. So they are culturally shaped by being inside of a home that feels like an American and Canadian home, but outside it feels like Taiwan. But they go to an American school. So culturally, they are both American, Canadian, and in some ways shaped by Taiwan. Now we have one extra member of our family, and I'll show you our next member. This is our dog. Our dog's English name is Muffin. 它的中文名字是麻烦. And she was found on the street in Taiwan by friends of ours, and they couldn't look after her, so we looked after her now. She sometimes lives up to her name, Mafan. Okay, a little bit of Mafan, but very nice dog. So she's one of my best friends. I love my dog. Okay, next. I told you we moved to Taiwan 10 years ago. And today we're going to talk about culture shock. I want to show you a couple pictures about our first couple months in Taiwan. This is my son. He's experiencing culture shock. He has to go to Chinese preschool. He does not understand the language. And he wakes up in the morning and he cries every single day. As a parent, my heart just drops. Because I wake up and I like praying, Lord, please not today. Don't let it. And then he wakes up and he says, do I have to go to school today? It's like, yes, buddy, you have to go to school. And he would cry. We once went out on a Friday night when we had only arrived in Taiwan. And he says, Daddy, do I have school tomorrow? I said, no, buddy, tomorrow's Saturday. You don't have school. Daddy, do I have school the next day after tomorrow? No, buddy. That's Sunday. You don't have school. He says, Daddy, do I have school the day after tomorrow? I said, yeah, that's Monday. You go back to school. He right away started to cry. Okay. Culture shock hits everybody differently. It is not just what we see in culture. Culture shock is the way we feel inside when everything changes. Can I see from a show of hands, if you are from another country? Okay. Okay, so a few of us. Maybe you have felt this. When you go and you expect things to be a certain way, and it's all different. And people think that you would think the way that they think, and it doesn't feel the same. Culture shock is not wrong, it's normal, but it's hard, okay? Culture shock might also involve food. What is this here? Yeah, stinky tofu, 臭豆腐。臭豆腐好不好吃？好不好吃？好吃。不对，是不好吃。When I first arrived in Taiwan, my Taiwanese friends would always say, you have to try 臭豆腐. Nobody now asks me because I've lived here 10 years. But when I first arrived, I was like, you have to try it. And I liked the sauce. And I thought the taste was better than it could have been, but it was still very strange to me. Okay. Oh, another story about my daughter. We had been in Taiwan for 1 month. And she turns to me and she says, she's kind of beside me here. She pulls on my shirt. She says, Daddy, I feel like a fish being chased by a shark. She was processing all of the changes going around her. And all I could do as a dad is hug her and say it's going to be better. But in my heart, how do you think that feels as a dad when your daughter says that to you? The next day, after she said that to me, a person asked me, how are you doing, Brian? And I looked at them, and I had to make sure I didn't cry because I was so worried about my daughter. Now, after 10 years, they are as comfortable on the streets of Kaohsiung as they are in America. Now, because they go to an American school, their Chinese is not perfect, but they can speak Chinese, Mandarin. Okay? So they adjust. Culture shock is not for forever. It's for a time period. And she adjusted, and we adjusted. We'll go to the next slide. What is culture? Before we talk about culture shock, we need to think about what is culture. Here's just a little picture. The older fish says, morning, boys. How's the water? Fish says, what the heck is water? Okay. How does this relate to culture? When you live in a culture, you don't realize what's going on and how much it is a part of what you do and how much you think and feel. I want to ask you a couple questions just to show some differences with culture. How many people, and just raise your hand, I'm not going to ask any questions, so no pressure. How many people shower in the morning? Okay. So a few people. How many people shower in the evening? Okay, raise your hand high so I can see it. Okay. In America, it would be the opposite. In America, you would have probably 70 or 80% of people shower in the morning. Very few people shower at night. How many people shower both in the morning and at night? Sometimes, right? For those of you shower in the morning, sometimes it's so hot in Kaohsiung, you have to shower in the evening. Okay? In America, it's not as hot in most places. Probably 80-90% of places are not as hot as Kaohsiung. So people shower in the morning to wake up. You shower, you drink your coffee, and you go to work. In Taiwan, it's so hot, people shower in the evening. Even this is part of culture. Okay, next question. When you drink water, do you like it cold or room temperature? How many people like cold water? How many people like their water at room temperature? Okay, here it's about half or half. And this is even cultural too. In America, people do this. Okay. In America, everybody drinks cold water. If you were to give an American a glass of water and it was room temperature, they wouldn't say anything because they would be polite, but they would wonder, why is this not cold? Okay, again, it's just culture. Next question. What time does your family eat? When you eat food, when you're eating with your family, how many people eat at around 7 o'clock? Okay. How many people would eat at 5 o'clock? Okay. One person. How many people around 5:30? Oh, we got more. Around 5:30. Okay. In America, people eat dinner earlier than in Taiwan. Around 5:30. Maybe 6 o'clock, maybe 6:30. But 7:30, if you called your friend and said, can you go out? And they said, oh, I'm going to eat dinner. You know, oh, it's so late. Why do Americans eat dinner early? A couple things. First of all, dad gets home from work earlier. Or maybe mom and dad get home from work earlier. Secondly, sports are in the evening. So the family needs to eat, and then kids need to go out and play sports. Because sports is a priority. Again, culture. Taiwanese kids are working hard at Bushiban. American kids are out playing on the field. Different culture. Lastly, and this is different in America than in Canada. If you go into somebody's home, will you keep your shoes on? How many people would keep their shoes on? Nobody. In America, people keep their shoes on when they go into somebody's home. Even when they walk into their own home, they wear their shoes until they go to bed. In Canada, when I grew up in Canada, nobody would do that. So when I moved to America and I had American friends come and visit, and they walk in the door and they don't take their shoes off. And then suddenly you're looking at your friend, you're like, didn't take his shoes off. Why didn't he take his shoes off? He's walking around my house. Okay. But once you realize it's a different culture, it's okay. In America, I moved from Canada to America. My first friend said, do you want to see my gun? I was like, oh no, your gun? I don't want to see your gun. In Canada, we don't have guns. But in America, it took me 2 days before I held my first handgun. Now, I've never held one since. But again, different culture. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Look at this picture here. This is an iceberg, but it shows culture. On the top, it says, I'll read it out to you because you probably can't see it. Language, food, dress, holidays, folklore, arts. When you come to a culture, this is what you see. This is what you know you are entering into. When I came to Taiwan, I knew that most people would speak Mandarin and maybe sometimes Taiwanese. I knew that there would be great food and it would be quite cheap for me. I knew that there's certain holidays. These are the harder things you learn over time. It says beliefs and assumptions, values, humor, personal space. How much space do you give between people? In Asia, cities are often crowded, people will be closer. Once I was talking to somebody, it wasn't somebody from Taiwan, but it was from a different Asian country. And they kept going closer to me. And I kept moving back. And we were talking and walking almost like a slow dance around the room, right? Because their culture is different. Now, if I would have stood there, they would have come into my space, and I would have felt uncomfortable. Okay. All of these things we don't see, but we feel. And when it comes to culture shock, I don't think it's the ones that we see. Like, I'm not shocked and I don't feel uncomfortable about chou tofu. I just won't buy it. But there are possibly things down here, the way people act. Americans are very direct. If you ask a question, will you come to this activity? They will say, yes, I will be there. Or they will say, no, I'm busy. Sometimes in Asia, less so in Taiwan, maybe even more so in Japan, a friend said there is 100 ways to say no, or 100 ways to say yes, but mean no in Japan. So this is what often makes our heart feel different. Okay, let's go to the next question, or next slide. Question. What do you think are some of the cultural challenges that foreigners have when they move to Taiwan? I shared a little bit from my life, but what do you think are some of the challenges? Yeah.
The motorcycles here. Too many.
Okay. Yeah. When you're driving, so many people on the road, and then the scooters. I thankfully in 10 years have not been in an accident. I have a Taiwan license for a car. My wife has been in 2 accidents, bumped into 2 scooters. Okay. What other challenges? Definitely traffic. And you hear foreigners complain about the traffic, but actually now, after 10 years, I like Taiwan traffic. Because I have a term that I've made up a word in English, I call it illegal-ish, where it's not really allowed, but everybody kind of does it. And in America, those things get everybody very angry, but in Taiwan, people are more kind. You know what I'm talking about, yeah. Yeah, like doing a U-turn in a street light. You'd never do that in America. People would be so angry. Or driving across like an intersection, people are standing on the edge, walking. Like when I drove my car up, people were standing there. In America, it is expected you stop and you let them walk. And if you don't, they give you the middle finger and they scream at you. Not everyone, but some. Okay. Any other cultural challenges you think? Language. Language is again one of the most obvious, but for me, studying Mandarin was very hard. Thankfully, people were very welcoming. A difference that you don't see between America and Taiwan is Americans love small talk. Small talk is like this. I go to a grocery store, and the person checking out my groceries, this is what they do. Okay, this is in America, not Taiwan. Did you get everything you want? Yeah. Oh yeah, and more. This is good. Have you bought this before? You're like, oh, that's my first time. And they keep checking it out, and then they're like, what are you doing tonight? This is a conversation with a stranger, and then you end it, and it's over. You might never see them again, and they might never see you again. In Taiwan, that would feel strange, but in America, that's normal. So when I went back to visit America, I was like, oh, this is interesting. People like small talk in America. Taiwanese, the questions are this. Do you have a membership? No. 不用. Did you park here? 不用. 要带子吗? Oh, 少的. Okay. Just practical. Okay. Which is right and which is wrong? Neither. Just different cultures. Another cultural challenge for me, it's not as much culture, but just weather. I'm from Canada, as I mentioned. The heat here is so, like in the summer, it's really hard for me. Still is after 10 years. Okay, we'll go to the next one. So, culture shock. I wrote this out. I wrote a couple notes of what culture shock is. It's a sense of sadness or anxiety that comes from being cut off from what is familiar to you. So, things that you are used to doing, you're not able to do, or it doesn't feel the same. It is not being surprised about a culture. So it's not like you go to another culture and you're like, oh, that's different. I didn't expect that. Culture shock is the emotions that you feel. It's the challenges and you feel it doesn't feel right in my heart when I'm in this culture. And we'll go to the next one. This is from somebody's research from over 55 years, 75 years ago. Honeymoon period. This is when you go to a new culture and you're like so impressed by the culture. Oh, I love this food. I love this. I'm so interested. When I see people come to Taiwan, foreigners, and they're like, oh, this is great. I love going to this place. And I've been to Kending, and the beach is beautiful. The food is cheap. The people are friendly. So you go up in your happiness, but then you hit culture shock, which is right here. And it has months here, although what I have seen with different people, it can be different for different people. So between the 2nd month and 6th month, they say is the hardest. I've seen it somewhere in that range. Culture shock. Okay, again, the feeling of sadness. It doesn't feel right in this culture. You don't get culture shock if you go on a trip, on a vacation. You're just seeing a culture. You might like the culture, you might not like the culture, but that's not culture shock. That's just learning about a culture. Culture shock occurs when you're going to stay in a place for a long time. Adjustment is you start realizing, okay, I can learn about different things, and I'm making, essentially in your heart, you're making peace with it. And then lastly, adaptation. When you adapt, I know foreigners who've lived in Taiwan who now say, I love my home country, but I never want to leave Taiwan. And I can understand that because Taiwan is a great place in so many ways. But they still went through this. Then they got to the point where they're like, notice that this line here and the starting point are the same. For myself, I have 3 countries, Canada, America, and Taiwan. I am comfortable in each. My heart feels comfortable in each. Although each one has different challenges and each one has different strengths. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. We're going to shift from talking about culture shock and talk about education. So that was just kind of very quick on culture shock, but this is education. I took both of these pictures. I went back to America with my family for 1 year. This university here is Princeton in New Jersey. In America, probably Princeton would be on most people's list of the top 5 universities. Princeton, Harvard, Yale, Berkeley, Stanford. And it is so beautiful. This picture here is from the University of Washington in Seattle. And that library, does that library remind you of anything? Has anybody seen Harry Potter? Okay. The library is far older than the Harry Potter movies, but the library now on the University of Washington campus is called the Harry Potter Library. Not officially, but everybody just calls it the Harry Potter Library. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Let me tell you a little bit about the structure of education in America. Preschool. Preschool is like in Taiwan, 小班, 中班, 大班, and it's optional. There are private preschools and there are government preschools. You will have to pay money. The government preschools will be cheaper. How many people go to preschool? Probably 70%. So many parents want their kids to go to preschool. Elementary is kindergarten through 5th grade. So this is about 5 years old to 10 years old. Middle school is 6th through 8th grade. High school is 9th through 12th, and then university. In America, for a bachelor's degree, about 50% of the people will go on to study at university. So in Taiwan, I've heard it's up to, do you know the number? Maybe 80 or 90%. About 90% of people come to university. In America, it's 50%. So what are those other 50% doing?
Okay.
They're working. Or going into the military. Military, working. In America, some people say, I don't want to go to university, I don't like school, I'll just go make money right away. Okay? Or they take what's called a gap year. Gap year is normally when you graduate from high school and you take 1 year and you go and you do something else. You travel, you take a different program, but something not with university. Interesting thing with high school in America, you probably know the terms freshman, sophomore. Does anybody know the rest? Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Okay? 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Those same titles go on to bachelor's as well. Freshman year of your bachelor's, sophomore year, junior, senior. In Canada, for high school, we just call it grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, grade 12. Also interestingly, in America, they say 9th grade. Canada says grade 9. Why? It's a culture, I guess. Different. Okay. About 50% go on to get a bachelor's, 10% go on to get a master's, and about 2 or 3% get a doctorate degree. It's interesting, if you go to the PhD programs in America, at the top schools, it's filled with people from overseas. Yeah. The vast majority of PhD programs in America have people from India, China, and Vietnam. Why is that? I personally think that a lot of Americans get as high a degree as they can and then say, I just want to work. The pressure to get high-level education in America is less than in Asia. So a lot of Asian students come and get their PhDs in America. Okay. Pressure doesn't start down here in American school. It starts around here. Okay. We'll go to the next slide. Question. How do you think education in America is different than education in Taiwan? Let's do this. I want you to turn to the person beside you. This is a very American way of teaching. Turn to the person beside you and give your thoughts on this question. If there's only one person sitting there, join another group, okay? I'll give you 2 minutes to answer this question. How do you think education in America is different than education in Taiwan? So talk to the person beside you. You have 2 minutes. Everybody's got opinions and they're being animated and stuff. Great. That's so funny. But I saw some of them. I was actually thinking maybe
one of the stands, like, Uzbekistan.
Okay, if I could have your attention up front, to answer this question, how do you think education in America is different than education in Taiwan? Any thoughts? Yes.
I think student in America, sometimes is inspired by teacher. But in Taiwan, the teacher always just read the textbook and didn't do something benefit to students who can find their way.
Yeah. I taught in America for 10 years, and somebody told me, you don't want to be the sage on the stage, so the wise person standing in front, you are the guide on the side, encouraging and helping other people to move forward. Inspiration. Yeah, that's so true. Oh, we'll welcome an invisible person. Welcome, sit down. Okay, any other thoughts? What is different about education? Yes? More what? Yes. In America, more extracurricular activities, which could be drama, singing, sports, other clubs, and there's time and there's openness to do different things. Yes?
The American education is kind of based on the Greek culture,
Yeah.
so they try to encourage a lot of individual thinking.
Yeah.
So that's why there's a lot of discussion
Yep.
and debates.
Yes. So, in case you didn't hear, open discussion, debates, and also everybody's opinion is considered to be valid, acceptable. It might be different opinions are stronger, but everybody gets to speak their opinion. Okay? There is less right or wrong in regards to education. Now, some things like math, if I said 1 + 1 is 3, and that's my opinion, is that wrong? Yeah, that's wrong, okay? So there's some things where you can't have an opinion. It's right or wrong, science as well. But in a lot of the classes, there's an attempt to get different thoughts and challenge people, debate, discuss. Okay, any other thoughts? Who thinks that pressure in Taiwan education is greater than pressure in America? 压力在台湾压力很大，对不对? Okay, I think the pressure here, and in regards to what we had before, pressure here starts early. Young people feel the pressure early. In America, people start feeling pressure when they're 16, 17, 18. In Taiwan, I think young people start feeling educational pressure at 7, 8, 9 years of age. And I think that's too young. Anyways, we'll go to the next one. Oh, here's just a picture to show a bit of the differences between America and Taiwan. It says school holidays. And here's this American kid, and he's like on his bike, you know, life is good, no problems, not thinking about school at all. And then here's these kids, and they're all doing something like be productive, be good at something, okay? An American, I think I mentioned this last time when I came in, when an American child comes home, and I've seen this in myself, the first thing I say to my kids was, how was your day today? Or I say, when they were younger, who did you play with? Did you have fun? Was it a fun day? I don't think many Taiwanese parents are worried about whether their child had fun or not. They want their child to be learning and doing well on tests. Now, this doesn't make the American system good and Taiwan bad necessarily, because sometimes American kids can do nothing and be proud about it. That's a problem. Okay, so sometimes there's a problem on both extremes. And I think that looking at both educational systems, Taiwan's and America, if you took the best of both, it'd probably be really good. Okay, we'll go to the next one. These is a couple of the challenges in the American system. It favors the wealthy. In America, local schools are provided by taxes by that small area. So the schools in wealthy areas are really great. And the schools in poor areas are not as strong. That's not, in my mind, that's not fair to people who are in poor areas. Teachers get paid, if you go to a wealthy district, you could get paid twice as much if you went to a poor area. So if somebody said, I want to help kids in a poor neighborhood, would you want to go if you knew you would only get paid half as much? It's very hard. Okay. Also, university in America is very expensive. People will get scholarships, but it's still very expensive. Another challenge in America, some schools are not safe. It's not uncommon in some areas for schools to have police officers. It's not uncommon in some areas for people to need to go through metal detectors. I don't know how you say metal detector in Chinese. Do you know metal detector? When you go to an airport and you have to walk through security and it shows whether you have a gun or anything, that's what some schools in America have. Not every school, but maybe 10% of schools are not safe. And I think all kids have the right to have a safe school. Another challenge is it can be too informal. And this is where I was saying that sometimes they think everything is so casual. Everybody's idea is good and everybody's idea is great, so it doesn't matter. That can be a challenge. Okay, so some of the benefits of American school. Next slide. Creativity is encouraged. Every single person is created differently. We all have different personalities and different abilities. And in America, everybody is allowed to have their creative side show. And I think that's good. People are taught to work in groups. So in America, when I taught, every single day I'm putting people into groups. Do this together. Then groups move. Do this together. So people need to learn to work with each other, and that's what happens when they work in groups. And then many opportunities to study different things. I think in America, they try to give lots of different opportunities for people to study things. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. I'm going to break you into groups again, talking at your tables. And again, this is an example of how teaching is done in America. Share your thoughts. This is the type of question that are in America because what motivates you to learn? Is there a right answer or a wrong answer? It's your opinion, your thoughts. Take some time and share with the person beside you what motivates you to learn. And I'll give you about 2 or 3 minutes to discuss it. Okay, so turn to the person sitting beside you and answer this question.
Or you say you have to study because it helps you.
Okay, let's look back at this question. I'm not going to have each person, individual people raise their hands, but I am curious to say, or to ask, what motivates you to study? How many people said, my parents or my family? Okay. How many people said, I love learning and I'm curious to grow as a person? Oh, he's coming back in. Okay. You know, you're all here for some reason. You're in this classroom and you're studying at this university for some reason. Do you study because you want to grow as a person, learn more, and develop who you are? Or do you study because you want to get a job afterwards? And that is acceptable as well. How many people want to get a job? That's good. How many people don't want to get a job? Okay, at least that's honest. We all study for different reasons. But if it was just about getting information, you could go to the library and read all day. We come and we learn to grow as individuals. We'll go to the next question. Actually, the next one is just, before I finish up, do you have any questions for me about my life in Taiwan, culture shock, or education? Yes?
So that actually means 10 years.
I say this in all honesty. What I love most about Taiwan is the people. I have friends who I've got to know quite well, Taiwanese friends, and they're very welcoming. Before I lived in Yentao, very, very rural. And I think that Taiwan countryside people, even those I didn't get to know really well, were so friendly. They give me so much bala. Yeah. So yeah. Bala. Guava. Yeah. And I also like the beauty of Taiwan. I think the Taiwan mountains and the countryside is beautiful. Okay. Any other questions?
One or two more. One more question before he move to the end.
No pressure. Okay, I will close with just a few things. We'll go to the next one. If you would like to practice English more, we have English Club here on campus. It's very relaxed. We play games, we'll sing a song, and then we have, sing a song, and then we'll have discussion. Just practice English with English language speakers, okay? And also it's to make friends. There's no pressure. I know some of you have come out. I hope you don't feel pressure. I think we try to make it fun and enjoyable so people can make friends and just practice. Okay? And then also, another thing, the next one, Halloween party. I'm a missionary here in Taiwan. That's what brings me to Taiwan. And in Dase, we have a community center. So we call it 生命福音中心, a gospel center. We have a Halloween party this Sunday. If you're interested in coming, talk to me about it after class, and I can tell you more information. And we'll show you a couple pictures. This is from, next one. This is last year. We played some games at the Halloween party. Normally in America, you bob for apples. So you put apples in and you try to catch it with your teeth. But because of COVID, we've actually used just long chopsticks to try to catch them. And then the next one. In America, at Halloween, everybody carves pumpkins. Pumpkins are so expensive in Taiwan. So we carve other fruit that's cheaper. In America, I was back in America last year at Halloween. My friend bought a pumpkin. It was over probably 50 kilograms. About this big, cost him $25. It's not too bad, right? For something this big, 25 American. Okay. So if you'd like to know more, come talk to me and I can tell you more about it. Okay? And I think I'll pass it back to you if there's anything.
Okay, yeah, thank you for Brian's sharing. And English club, he mentioned, I know